Welcome back to another episode. My name is Todd Durkin, and who is fired up today? If you're fired up for another episode, say, I'm fired up. Amen. Do we have anyone out there that's running right now on the street? You're walking the dog, you're driving, and you're screaming. You're like, yeah, let's get this on because today is going to be a very special episode. You're like, why, TD? Why is it so special? Because I have not one, I have two guests in studio today. Yes, buckle your bootstraps, my friends. Today's podcast is sponsored by carnosine beta-alanine, an ingredient found in the top pre- and post-workout supplements. Along with the right training program and proper nutrition, carnosine helps build strength, endurance, and power. It works by buffering lactic acid in the muscle, which allows you to train longer and harder, plus speed recovery, so you get back at it faster. Carnosine gets me dialed in for my workouts and keeps me going strong when exhaustion hits. The recommended dose is 90 grams over a 28-day period, which equates to 3.2 grams per day every day. So yes, I take it on my non-training days too. Carnosine is backed by over 55 scientific studies and contains 0 banned substances. And that's important when you're competing at the highest level like many of my athletes, or you just want to perform at your highest level also. Find carnosine in pre-workouts, post-workouts, or in standalone products at your local health food store. Look for the carnosine logo on the label to be sure you're getting the real deal. If you want the most out of your health and fitness program, choose carnosine beta-alanine. I'm confident it will help you like it helps me. To see the full list of carnosine verified brands and to purchase, visit www.team.carnosine.com. Again, that's www.team.carnosine.com and go to the Find Carnosine button in the drop-down menu. Build a better muscle with carnosine. We got my man, Frank Pucher and Larry Indiviglia in the house. Fellas, what's happening?
Hey, T.
Great to be here.
Hey, if you do not know these names, guys, this is a special interview today. As a matter of fact, I'm not interviewing them. They're interviewing me. Yes, I don't even know these questions you're going to be asking me. This is going to be a little cray-cray, like kind of off the cuff. But, hey, without further ado, I'm jumping right in because I want you to know Frank and Larry because they're two of my closest confidants, colleagues, they're friends, they're mentors. We work closely together on many levels of business. And, man, it is going to be a special podcast episode today. We're talking leadership, we're talking business, we're talking personal. I want to get you better today. That's what I want to do is I want to get you better. And they said, hey, TD, let's do a little interview with you. And but we're going to ask you some crazy deep questions. I'm like, cool, that sounds good. But Frank Pucher, if you don't know him, he's the author of Smart Money Moves. Smart Money Moves, How to Earn, Grow, and Protect the Money You Deserve. So he's an author. He's an athlete. He's a five-time Ironman triathlete. Are you kidding me, Frank? 5 times?
5 times, baby.
Once wasn't enough. You had to do it 5. Former 2-time NCAA conference track champion. Where was that at?
And East Stroudsburg University.
East Stroudsburg U. If you know where East Stroudsburg is, can I get an amen on that? Yeah. And he's a sub 3-hour marathoner. Sub 3 hours.
Back in the day.
He's an entrepreneur, 20-plus years. He owned New Jersey's best personal training show. Yeah, New Jersey's best. And let me tell you something. There's a lot of great studios in New Jersey. All you Jerseyites out there, can I get a little fist pump, please? All the fist pumps out there in Jersey. You know I love you. All the way back, all the way across the East Coast. I love you guys. But 20-plus years, Frank had his studio. He recently sold his studio to come out here to San Diego to head up the Todd Durkin Mastermind Group and is working closely with Larry Indiviglia here to change hundreds of people's lives through the TD Mastermind Group. He speaks at many different industry events, and he does a lot of things throughout the fitness industry. So, Frank, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here, Todd.
What did I leave out, by the way?
Matt, that's a pretty thorough bullet point that you just read from right there.
I think you left one thing out.
What was that?
Frank, the dog.
Wow. Yes, proud dog dad to Sobi Pucher.
Now, what kind of dog is Sobi?
Sobi is a Shiba Inu. Looks like a fox. Just a great joy to have her in my life every day.
Sobi is awesome. Now, right to Frank's right is Larry Indiviglia. If you've been around me for long enough, if you've ever been at a live event, you've probably met Larry. And no, contrary to popular belief, Larry is not my camera guy. You're like, hey, that's Todd's camera. No, he's not my camera guy. Well. Just so you know, I work best when I'm with Larry and Frank when they're by my side. And Larry's been by my side for many, many years. I've known him for 22 years. 22 years. It was 1997. I was living at a condo complex in here. And
La Mirage.
And what happened?
La Mirage. Todd walked in with this, actually it was a big blue bag with all his tools in there. He didn't use the gym much. He didn't use like the selectorized equipment. He's out on tennis courts. He's stretching people differently. He's using sport cords, everything. I go, God, who is this cat? So I talked to the manager, and the guy says, hey, that's Todd Durkin. He goes, I'm tight with him. He goes, I was a quarterback at San Diego State. He goes, Todd was a quarterback. And anyway, he goes, yeah, he goes, meet him. He's a great guy. And, Todd was in those days a great guy, and he still is a great guy. Todd, in those days, he wasn't like as effusive as he was today. He was, I think there was some healing still going on, T, in 1997.
Yeah, it was just 2 years after my back injury.
Yeah, it was. But you were very courteous. You were very professional. Said hi to you. Said, yeah, Larry, I see what you're doing here. Awesome. And then we just struck up a conversation, and then I started following Todd because he was doing things differently. And that's what the lesson is in life sometimes, guys. Watch somebody who's doing something different and see what you could learn from them. And then I just started following him. And next thing I know, he's in newspapers in San Diego. He's doing seminars, all kinds of things. But that was the initial time we did meet. Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, when you say you were following me, we didn't have social media back then, year 2000, right? When I opened Fitness Quest 10. Matter of fact, my first ever workshop, it was OPB, Optimal Performance Bodywork. I had 5 people at that workshop.
Yeah.
My first one ever, 5 people, and 3 of them were employees.
Yeah.
3 employees. That means we had 2 people, and you were one of the paying people.
I was partnered up with Brett Klick. I remember we were doing stuff.
Larry was one of my first clients in that regard. He went to the first OPB live workshop in San Diego at Fitness Quest 10, and then you also were in the vintage when I launched the Mastermind Group 2007.
Correct. Yes.
You were part of the original Mastermind Group and have been with the Mastermind in varying capacities. First as a member, then in heading up the Mastermind, and then as a Mastermind coach. And you've seen us through many, many expansions now since 2007 in the Todd Durkin Mastermind Group.
Yeah, we certainly have to. And the nice thing about it, that's how I met Frank. Mm-hmm. Because there's kind of an intersection here. You started the TD Mastermind 2007, and 2 years later, when you offered me the coaching opportunity when we were expanding, and Frank was a member of my team, so it's kind of like old home week here.
Well, exactly. You guys are sitting here at the office, feel like you're part of. Pull up a chair as you listen in, whatever you're doing right now, because Frank and Larry, along with my team, these guys are on the inside on all aspects of Fitness Quest 10, all our initiatives, and we're going to go through an interview process here, which I'm not even sure all the questions you're going to ask, but Larry,
that makes 2 of us.
I'm a little scared about that, right? But here's the deal, Larry. I know a ton about your background. I mean, obviously, you went to the Naval Academy.
Trained, not educated.
You served in the military, the Navy, for many years. If there's something that I don't know about you, could you share that with all of our listeners in today?
There's probably one thing. I always prided myself in this, in my own physical fitness, because I think anybody who's in the fitness business may have their centering in working out first. That was always kind of my thing. And over the years, I always felt I had a good combination of strength and endurance. So I was able to run a 2:44 marathon and also bench press 360 pounds. So I'm kind of proud of that one. Yeah,
you bench 360
at a body weight of 168.
Guys, if you're not seeing this right now, Larry is the living Jack LaLanne. He is ripped. He is a ripped guy. You bench 360.
Yeah.
How much were you weighing then?
I was 168 pounds.
I love
it. And I benched 360. But I was like 25. That was 40 years ago.
So Larry not only has a faster marathon PR than me, but he's out benching me.
Anyway, no, I'm proud of that.
I got to increase my bench press. I got to get it up.
I'm proud of that. One other fact that, was interesting. I interviewed in 1983 with, at that time, Vice President George W. Bush. So I used to call him Daddy Bush, W's dad. And he was vice president under Ronald Reagan in those days. And I was a finalist. There was 3 lieutenants they were considering for this aide position, and I was one of them. I didn't get the job, but I interviewed with him for a half hour, and he was a great man. I really did enjoy that.
All right.
Yep.
And you've always had the utmost respect for Roger Staubach.
Oh, yeah.
Why is that?
That was kind of passed on from my dad, and I first met Roger at Annapolis at Catholic Mass in 1963. I was 8 years old, and I sat behind him. And my dad had a friend who was a Navy captain, and I was able to shake his hand there. And 28 years later, I met him at another Academy event. He didn't remember the 8-year-old encounter, but I met him and his wife, and he's a stand-up guy, and I was not disappointed.
For all of you young listeners out there today, all you high school kids, I know there's a lot of my young high school kids and even younger kids than that. If you don't know who Roger Staubach is, you need to Google him. Thank goodness for Google
Thank
these
God.
days.
They're Googling right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because Roger Staubach, number 12 of the Dallas Cowboys, I still remember, Larry, I don't even know if you know this, my dad gifted me when I was a young kid a Roger Staubach helmet, and it had an autograph in it. I'm still convinced to this day that it was my dad who autographed Roger Staubach's name in there, but I still have a Roger Staubach Dallas Cowboy helmet. And guys, Google Roger Staubach if you don't know the name, because I grew up a huge Roger Staubach fan.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. So without further ado, we're going to hop into this interview, and I hope you guys enjoy. If you're walking, running, lifting right now, start working to that 360-pound bench press or one of these sub 3 hour marathons. We got some fit folks in the room, baby. So without further ado, let's start finding away some questions. Frank, Larry, who's going up first?
I'm going first.
All
I'm
right.
going first. So, T, this is kind of an inside-outside question, not on the football field, but Todd, you've been owner of Fitness Quest 10, one of the top 10 gyms in the United States for many years now. And you have built up a staff of 42 people, and you're a strong leader here at Fitness Quest 10 as owner and coach and head coach and trainer. And then you also, in 2007, as you mentioned, started the Todd Durkin Mastermind Life and Business Coaching Program. Mm-hmm. What are some of the leadership approaches and methods that you've done here inside the building at FQ10 that maybe you've applied to outside the building with the mastermind? Any differences, any similarities?
When we talk in leadership, I'm going to just start with number one. I've had some great leaders in my life, and it goes back. You've heard it in previous episodes. If you haven't listened to it yet, go back to the episode from my lessons from my top mentors, Coach Wolf. There was a sign in his office that said, "Lead, follow, or get out of the way." Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Like, if you're going to lead, step up and lead. If you're not going to lead, then follow a great leader. And if you don't know what the heck you're doing, then get out of the way, because in today's day, you got to be a great leader. In school, in sport, in business, whether you work for a company, you are the company, whatever it may be, like, you got to lead, you got to follow, or you got to get out of the way. And to me, when it comes to Fitness Quest 10, almost 20 years now, when it comes to leadership, number one, I believe, is you got to walk your talk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Got to walk your talk. Like, I can never ask any of my clients or athletes to do something that I'm not willing to do. And I'll always stand behind that. Like, I'm going to commit to the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual side of being world class. If I'm going to ask one of my football athletes or another athlete to play at an MVP level, guess what? I have to perform at an MVP level. In here at the gym, okay? I'm not going to ask any one of my teammates to do something I'm not willing to do. And that means whether it's 5 a.m., whether it's 8 a.m., whether it's working Saturday or Sunday, if it's, a holiday, like, I've got to be willing to do that. So I think from a leadership perspective, walking the talk is really important. Another thing I would say when it comes to leadership is, I talk about this all the time, but how do you care? How do you out-care everybody else? Like, how do you truly, genuinely, empathetically care for your people? Meaning this. Fitness Quest 10 has a vision that changes lives. Like, our mission is to change lives every single day, one by one. Grandma, grandpa, young kid, mom, dad, athlete. It doesn't matter. I want to change your life. We want to change your life. How do you stay mission-centered, purpose-driven, yet stay on task to make sure that you are really empathetically listening with your eyes, not just your ears? How do you listen with your eyes, saying, what are they saying, without saying something? When you care for someone, you're caring for somebody so deep that you can feel the pain that they might be going through. You can see what they're doing with their struggles, both in the weight room and outside the weight room. If they're going through a relationship struggle, I literally just had someone today. I was training one of my athletes, and he came up to me, not the athlete, a client said, "Hey, thank you. I was listening to the podcast, and your words hit me today. I needed to hear something on that podcast." I said, "Thank you very much. It's always great to know that someone's listening to the podcast," because I listen to those comments. And to me, caring is just like, how do you live heart-centered and lead heart-centered? how do you lead heart-centered? Not so much like I've never been driven by money or profit, like even though profit in business is important, but if it's just on money, it's going to run out. Like you got to stay heart-centered. You got to stay purpose-driven on that stuff. So I think, walking your talk is important. I guess I'll answer one more, and then if you have a question on that, because when it comes to leadership, lead, follow, get out of the way. Yeah. I think one thing that we have done really well at Fitness Quest 10, and even in the mastermind, you guys know this, is you got to continually have a growth mindset. So I've always encapsulated that myself because I never feel like I'm good enough. There's always another level to get to. And with my team, we started as a one-man show. It was just me, no clients, no money, no business plan when I started Fitness Quest 10 in the year 2000. And then we got Brett Klicka as one of my first trainers that came on board. He's still with us almost 20 years later. But as we've grown, there's always been opportunities that we created to continue to grow people so that we can keep the growth mindset, give them opportunities so we can keep people growing and as part of our culture, because we know that the team is a huge part of our culture. Look at the TD Mastermind. It's grown. It started as, like the 12 apostles on this, and then it's grown since, and now we have, a couple hundred fire-breathing dragons in that. We had one group. Now we have 3 levels. We have an institute. We have 5 different platinum level teams. We have a power of 10. We're always growing and evolving. I think the company, the individual that's stuck, they're in a quagmire, you're stalled, then you've got to find ways to continually recreate yourself and grow yourself, innovate yourself. Otherwise, you will die. And in today's day, it's imperative that you continue to grow. So when it comes to leadership, Larry, that's what I would say.
Todd, I just want a quick follow-up on something. You look, 20 years, you've a lot of successes. Going back, what's one thing you wish you knew at the beginning that perhaps you know now? If you can go back with the knowledge you've gained, what's one change you would have made?
Good question, Frank.
This is how you know these questions weren't prepared in advance.
And here's why I'm hesitant to answer this question the way I would, because I wouldn't trade what I did.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I worked like a mule 7 days a week, around the clock. And I remember Wayne Cotton having a heart-to-heart and telling me I'm going to end up like my father, dead at the age of 58, because if I keep working 7 days a week nonstop around the clock and not getting my mellow yellow time, that I don't care how much success you have, how much money you make, it's not going to be worth it. I sacrificed. I've talked about this before, but I've sacrificed a lot in the beginning that I probably would have taken a day off.
What was the moment then when you took Wayne's advice to heart and you were able to make that shift and make that turn away from being that workhorse into starting to become more of a leader that you spoke of?
It was following his system, the 4-color coded calendar system, where there's mellow yellow and blue sky time, and I'm going to start building my calendar out and abiding by my calendar, because as a self-professed workaholic, I love my, quote, work. It's not like I'm working, but I love what I do. It's when I start saying mellow yellow and blue sky time are actually going to drive the green machine and the success that you have and the significance that you chase. And it was once I started doing that, it still is like getting over the guilt of, hey, if I'm not the last to leave, like they're going to see me not, being the last to leave. Or if I'm not the first in, like then what kind of leader am I being? It was like, hey, I have to live by a structured calendar. Now I have the 4-color coded calendar system, those 4 colors, mellow yellow, blue sky, working on your business, not in your business. Mellow yellow, vacation time when my big ideas come. Green machine when I'm actually training, making money. And of course, red tape, the organizational time. When Wayne finally got on me and had the heart-to-heart, it was like, I've got to abide by this. If I want to do something different and get something different than what I'm already getting, I have to create this system and I've got to follow it. And frankly, like, speaking of pardon the pun, frankly, it was me being part of different coaching groups and learning about, like, how can I be better? There's always another level. There's always another level. So I tell my athletes, I'm just with one today. Like, there's always another level. I don't care if you're a Super Bowl champion. We chase perfection and we hit excellence. Right? We're never gonna be perfect, but it's like we got to chase the excellence. We got to chase the significance.
Love it. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Another question.
Man, I'm in the hot seat. I'm
yeah,
in the
you
hot
know,
seat. I'm feeling
Todd-
sweaty.
Todd, on the journey through life, I look at it as energy shifts. You'll go through some energy shifts in life, and there'll be a few of them. And do you think an energy shift is purposeful, self-driven, or maybe random? Perhaps both, perhaps all. And what have been maybe your 2 to 3 most significant energy shifts in your journey so far?
Energy shifts. Well, I can tell you life is full of energy shifts. I think you have to, like, not just because you have an idea and think, oh, it's energy shifting. It's got to be a something that is persistent over weeks, months, sometimes even years. Sometimes it's random, but typically I think that when you are going deep on yourself and your purpose and asking yourself, what is my purpose on that? When you ask the question about, a couple specific energy shifts, I would say maybe the first recognizable energy shift looking back now would be when I finished my football career, not by choice. It was by injury. I was hurt. I was in Aix-en-Provence, France, playing football, quote, living the dream, right? Getting paid to play football in a foreign country, and I absolutely loved it. I would have done it for another 5-10 years if I could have. It was that injury that forced me to go deep and think about what was my backup plan, right? What was my backup plan? I didn't have a backup plan, but over a several year period, I realized shifting from football to, let's call it, real life, I now had to discover another dream. And by living in 12 cities in less than 5 years and having many, many mentors in the bodywork field and fascial work and mindset and energy and Reiki and all these different things that I sought after, it was an energy shift. Because I went from I'll call it a highly driven athlete to now I had to figure out what was my next step in life. I would say that was one. Another one would be probably an energy shift is when I went on TV and NBC Strong. I know I'm jumping ahead now from 1995, 96 all the way to 2016, right, on this. And NBC Strong was like an energy shift. It was like, hey, for 9 years I had it on my intention to go on and create a show or be on a show. And then I got the opportunity, and that opportunity, I was away from my family, from my business, and it was like, hey, I had this dream, and all of a sudden it came true. It's like, do I really want this?
And that one was purposeful.
That was purposeful.
Yeah.
But even though it was purposeful, there was still a moment, was like when I got offered to go on that show, I was like, do I really want this?
Yeah.
Do I really want this? Because I had to pray about it, talk to Melanie about it, talk to Julie, who was my GM at the time, and my teammates. It's like, hey, I'm going to be gone for up to 3 months. And like sometimes people don't see the behind the scenes, but I had 5 major things that had to happen to make that happen, including, that cost me money, time, energy, and time with the family.
Yeah.
But an energy shift that also opened up a different world to me as well in seeing, quote, the Hollywood world and how that worked. That was an energy shift.
Yeah.
And I'd even say right now, I'm in the midst of an energy shift. Like this podcast that I'm doing, I had the intention for 3 years to do a podcast.
Yeah.
3 years to do a podcast.
Yep.
Until I finally had enough people like, hey, TD, when are you going to do a podcast? We can do a podcast. And like, it was always my own, like, do I have time to do a podcast? What is everyone going to think of the podcast? And, can I make an impact with the podcast? So I do read every comment that comes through on our DM or a message, or you guys, post it. But I'm loving doing podcasting. And I just wrote, my 3rd book that's coming out in 2020. I love speaking. I love writing. I love training. When I'm training someone and I'm truly just training them, I'm at most peace. When I'm training them, I have no other cares in the world. Like when I'm still doing what I do, like at heart, I'm a coach. Mm-hmm. I love getting in the mind, body, and soul of somebody and saying, I'm going to help them. Now, if I want them to be great more than they want to be great, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But I believe the people I'm getting the chance to work with on all levels, not just athletes, but like in my new impact coaching program and in the mentorship and the mastermind, these are people who want to get better. These are people saying, I want to get better. I'm stuck. I need help. All right. Let me light a little fire into your backside and let me coach you. Let my coaches coach you, because in our growth, heck, you guys know it. Frank, you've been with me for 10 years. Larry, for at least in the mastermind for over 10 years, 12 years in the mastermind, and 22 overall. Yeah. It's like we're working with people who want to get better. So I think there are energy shifts.
Yeah, that's great, T, and it covers across the board.
I was just going to comment on, when you mentioned the NBC Strong, it was an inconvenient opportunity. It was something that you asked for, that you prayed for the longest time, and it came at an inconvenient time. Perhaps when you started thinking about, creating something like that, maybe things were a little less hectic at home, or maybe they were a little less hectic at work or with your family. And I think it's an important reminder to a lot of people that, be careful what you wish for, number one, and every opportunity often comes with a cost that most people don't see.
Your greatest opportunities always come at the most inconvenient times. Mm-hmm. Always. Mm-hmm. I look back, and all my great opportunities, they were at horrible times.
Or what's the quote? Something along the lines of, your greatest opportunities are disguised as problems, or out there disguised as obstacles.
That's right.
Yeah.
I look back, NBC Strong was one of them. I look back when I went to Ali Brown's workshop in 2006, which changed the trajectory of my business from not having anyone on a, quote, list to growing my list now of people. That came in the midst of a $500,000 expansion at Fitness Quest 10 when I didn't have the money. I had to create that. And then there's this, quote, 4-day workshop I had to commit to outside of the city that cost me money that, I was, strapped for cash, and, I felt led to go. And I didn't, quote, want to go, but I wanted to go. And the best opportunities always come at the most inconvenient times. And it's always I think the mindset of listen, if you're feeling being led to do it, are you going to act on that? Because when I look at NBC Strong, I look at some of the things I've done, they've never been at the perfect time. There's no such thing as the perfect time.
Yeah.
Right? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, great segue into the next one, T, on that. You've competed in athletics, you've competed in business and still are, and in life, maybe in general. How does challenge or competition change a person? And how do you think you compete today?
Just ask my kids. I compete in everything. I hope I'm always competing, with myself. It just moves my juices. Competition, I think you got to find it, whether it's running a marathon or it's playing checkers and not wanting to lose.
Running a business is a competition.
Business, absolutely right. You don't want to lose. Mm-hmm. You don't want to lose to your competition. You don't want to lose to yourself. I look at one of my clients, Pastor Jeremiah, late 70s. He wants to be challenged. There's a competition. He inspires me to be man, I want to be like him when I get older. Mm-hmm. I want to compete like that. I want to compete when I'm training. The other day, I went out and did a 400 around the track. Now, it was a year ago, literally a year ago, I had my partial knee replacement on my knee. I was on crutches, and I went out and I did. Okay, I said, it was Labor Day when I did this. I'm I wonder what I can run a 400 in.
Flat out.
No one's around.
Flat out.
Well, flat out. I guess
racing
flat.
No
flat out.
What was the verdict?
No shirt.
Okay.
And I was like, can I do this under a minute? And now that's flying, right?
Yeah.
That's flying. I was like, that's world class. That's college days.
Well, I don't know. That may be middle school world class.
But I did not hit under a minute. But let me tell you what, I went out all out, and I got another 2 minutes. Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, it just felt good to compete. Mm-hmm. And then what I want to do here is next time I'm out, I want to go out and get better. It's the little things. Every day there's a competition. Can I burn more calories on I did yesterday? Can I get more MEPs on this same amount of time? So I think you got to build these micro competitions within yourself on that.
Maybe that's something that you do with the rebounder game too, with the
every
clients, right?
Friday morning lights.
There you go.
Compete.
I'm thinking if we would have shaved your body down, you could have shaved off about 15 to 20
I don't like that.
15 to 20 seconds.
I don't want to go there. No. I don't want to go there. You cyclists and marathoners, all this stuff. I don't want to shave my body down like you guys. You're crazy.
All right, last one for me, and then Frank will throw a few at you. I hear Todd. I think I like this question. When you're on stage presenting, keynoting, workshop, motivational talk, you could do a lot of them, and you have, and you continue to do. What are the 3 things you want your audience to feel, to experience, and to take away from your talk?
Well, regardless of if it is a fitness conference or if it's a keynote address for a company, when I'm speaking, the number one thing is I want people to feel me. I want them to feel me. So how do you get someone to feel you? Right? It's like, I think when you're all in and you deliver an address with passion because you love a topic, then they feel you. And I think part of it is like, you've got to be so just enamored with the topic that you emotionally get into it. So if I'm speaking to a bunch of engineers or sales men or women, I want them to feel me. I want them to feel like every ounce of energy I'm giving to someone, because my whole thought process going into a talk is, I don't know who the one out there is going to be today, whether there's 10 or there's 100 or 1,000. I'm changing someone's life today. That's my thought, is I'm changing someone's life today. I don't know who it's going to be, but I guarantee I'm going to get one email or one text or a DM saying, you just changed my life. And I'm always looking for that one. So when I'm speaking to 1,000 people, do you get freaked out? Heck no. Are you kidding me? I want one out of this crowd of 1,000 to be fired up, to transform their life, to transform their nutrition, their commitment to their training, whether they're exercising or not. I want them like, hey, I got to amp it up. I'm going to go hire a coach. I'm going to hire a trainer, and I'm going to get fired up. I'm going to change my mindset, which often change the relationship that they're in, which change the relationship with their kids, all because of one talk. Yup. So I want them to feel me. I also, in any of my talks, my mind says, I'm going to have some stories that are going to impact them. Like, people remember stories. So they remember how they make how you make them feel, but they remember stories. So I always try to have some good stories in any talk, whether it be within fitness, whether, again, it's a keynote, or if it's to a high school group of kids, whether it's FCA, whoever it is. Like, I want good stories. And then the last thing I would say, Larry, about that is if one thing I want them to take away is, what's my topic about? So if it's about impact, right? And again, episodes 1 and 2 of this podcast is all about impact, is I want them to feel something about being inspired, about mastering their craft, or what's it take to play at world class, getting that mind right, or what's the action step I need to take to get my body right, my soul right, my business right. You know, what's it going to take to condition for greatness? And the tenacity is the spirit and the energy, the fervor. What's that going to take? So how am I going to impact them today and leave them with a mark so they remember me for the rest of their life?
Well, you know, T, it's interesting, and it's certainly not easy to do. And I think when you have a strong message and strong motivation and a strong inspiration, and that's a purpose, you know, that's behind your keynoting and your speaking, you love it. It's one of your 5 things that make your soul sing. But it's interesting in that, and being behind the camera through many of them, I always look at the content of what you're delivering, but also the intent behind it. And I think in particular when you are on stage, it's both. You're always aware of delivering great content and messaging, but then it's the intent of why you're delivering that. And even if you get off a plane in China at midnight and we think we're going to go to the hotel, and they drive you into a hotel and there's 400 people in a big room, and that one was a little bit, you had to call an audible on that one.
There have been many audibles called that people don't see, but Larry, you've been all over. I mean, China, Australia, that one in China, getting off and literally feeling like I've been hit over the head with a frying pan, and then the host saying, hey, we got 400 trainers waiting to see you right now. I'm like, wait a second, what are you talking about? It's midnight. And going in there and having to do a talk at midnight, and with these people, I felt like I was talking with marbles in my mouth, and they were freaking out, and they're energetic.
Yeah, they were.
I hadn't slept in 20 hours. But if you think back, way back, and I wasn't present for these era, but when you look at the Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, DiMaggio days in Yankee baseball, and I grew up a Yankees fan, grew up in New Jersey. I remember one thing I forget who it was, that said he never took a game off because he never knew who was showing up to the stadium for the first time.
Yeah, that was number 5. That was Joe D. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I always think now,
You just saved a lot of Google.
He is Google.
That is Google.
He is Google. Is who's showing up for the first time? Because I have a lot of people tell me, I drove here from so-and-so to see you talk. That gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like, I think of Roger Maris, DiMaggio, all these guys are like, you never know. Like, I'm not taking a speech off. I'm not taking a play off. I'm not taking a day off. Like, because someone just yesterday came in here who on vacation, drove here, and I happen to be here.
From Utah.
Yeah. And I was here. That made my day. Like, I happen to be here. Like, he came out of his way with his wife on vacation to come see Fitness Quest 10. That fires me up. Yeah. Don't take a play off. Don't take a day off. Don't take a speech off. Don't take a talk off. Like, you're on. And when you show up, especially when you're being paid to do something, you better show up and bring your A game every day. And that's how I approach anything.
You know, I never got the backstory on that China trip, but once again, it wasn't an obstacle. It was an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Might have been miscommunication, but there was an opportunity there for you to dig into a deeper level and to shine. But I think, you know, before I move on, you talked about something, Todd, and I think that this is important because I think this is so applicable outside of just getting on a stage and presenting, but I think that this is a great philosophy of life. I think people are always thinking about, how do I do these big things? And you just kept talking about, you know, when you go on stage, it's about speaking to that one person, to get that one email, to impact that one life, to make the difference in one. And it's that philosophy of little and often. You know, as you're a trainer, you're a coach, you're a mom or dad, you need that one victory a day. And if you could just every day, the compound effect, all of a sudden that's 5 to 7 victories a week. That's 20 to 30 a month. And you start to look at it over the course of the impact you've had over a year, and that's significant. You know, I always say it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. And so I love that you brought that up on stage, like because I think a lot of people might look at you and be like, man, how does he do that? So it's like, you know what? It's really simple. He goes up there just looking to speak and connect with one person. And by the way, and you taught us all this, you connect with one, you probably spoke to many. So I couldn't let the moment go by. I mean, I think that there was a profound lesson and great wisdom that you just you shared that gets lost in a lot of people's messaging.
Folks, you're probably saying right now, hey, that guy's pretty smart. Can you see why I like these guys?
Went to an all-boys school.
Frank and Larry are awesome. But, hey, you know, one thing you got to realize when you're listening in today, maybe you lead a company or you're a department chair. It could be leading 8 people. You're trying to connect with one. You don't have to be a speaker to connect with people. If you're at a company and you are working for an organization, you still have to, connect with your teammates, your colleagues. If you're on an athletic team and you're a young athlete or you're a pro athlete, how do you show up to your team? Are you contributing to your organization or are you detracting from your organization, right? So it's no different if you're speaking to your studio or club or to the PTA or the Knights of Columbus, the Kiwanis Club. Like, it doesn't always have to be a big stage. It's every time you show up, you got to show up.
Well, you're talking about contribution, and in a lot of ways, you're talking about being a great teammate. And, listen, let's be honest. I think the reason why Larry and I are in this room and where we all intersected is Larry before me and then me coming later, we were great teammates. And that's why we were given the opportunities that we have right now. But, Todd, something I want to, this question's been on my mind for a while, so I'm glad that I've got you pinned down here. I think a lot of people would look at you and your trajectory and say, God, the guy, mid-2000s, you were a 2-time Personal Trainer of the Year award winner, recognized by both IDEA and ACE, 2 leading organizations in the industry. You'd already had Fitness Quest 10 for a number of years. You were training some, professional athletes. By most people's standards, they would have looked at you like, man, this guy is at the top of his game. Professional athletes, brick and mortar business, award winner. But yet, you did something I think which is unique, and you started to touch on this when you mentioned Allie Brown. You actually went out and sought coaches. You went out and sought coaching after you had already, by many people's standards, become successful. What was your thinking, if you can look back then? Like, why didn't you just say, I've made it? What made you go deeper?
My mindset was, I'm just getting started. Like, literally, those successes or accolades was just the start of what was about to become. It was never about that was the end game, was to get an award or an accolade or a certain achievement. It was like, this is the foundation that I was going to work off of to get to the next level. I got a phone call from a gal named Kelly Calabrese. I think it was about 2005, 2006. And Kelly asked me to be part of a, quote, mastermind group with her and Phil Kaplan. I just happened to just finish reading the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill that talked about a mastermind group. I was like, sure, I'll be part of this group. And that was like my first introduction to a mastermind. And Kelly and Phil were awesome. I loved them. And then that led me to Allie Brown's mastermind group, which then, a couple years later was Robin Sharma, who, I've studied with for many years now. And then Joe Polish. Like, over the last 10 years, I've had a lot of coaches and mentors. But I realized, like, every time I learn, it's like, it's just more fuel to the fire, because it's like I have more to contribute to the people I get to coach. So the more I learn, the more I can give back to people here at Fitness Quest 10 or the group that I lead in my mastermind group. So for me, it's just a growth mindset. Carol Dweck talks about it in the book Mindset. You're either fixed mindset or growth mindset. And if you really want to achieve your optimal potential and reach not only the success but the significance that you deserve, you have to be a person of growth mindset. And that takes getting unstuck. And if you are a person of fixed mindset, you have to change that. And that means attending live events. That means making sure you hire a coach. That could be a trainer. That could be a life coach. That could be a nutritionist. It could be someone on a relationship or a business coach, whatever. But you have to challenge yourself to get to another level. So that's why in the mid-2000s, like, to me, it was never like, hey, I achieved this. I can sit back and cross my legs and put them up on the table. It's like, this is just the start. Like, let's rock and roll, baby. We got to go.
I think it's another example of what you spoke about a few minutes ago, your competitiveness and just, you're always trying to get better. But, that's a great segue, Todd, into, so you attended, you participated in other people's mastermind programs. And then in 2007, you create the TD Mastermind program for fitness professionals to help trainers become better. Talk a little bit about what your intention was at that time.
So by that time, 2006, 2007, I was speaking a lot. After I got my first Trainer of the Year award, I started speaking 20 plus times a year. And the more times I spoke, the more people were coming up and asking for me to coach them. So I started with just one-on-one coaching. And that I ran out of time thinking I can't one-on-one coach very long. It was taking a lot of time, energy from me, and I loved it. But I started thinking about the power of having my own coaching mastermind group. And that's what I did in 2007 when I formulated my own mastermind group. It was to what Napoleon Hill talked about, was having a collective group of growth-minded individuals that together could collaborate, facilitate, and achieve the success that they were destined to do based on their purpose. So for me, it was, number one, I wanted to help more people. There was a need for it. I loved it. I loved coaching people. I just didn't want to coach them one-on-one all the time. So it was that. It was also based on the intention. When I expanded, I was like, hey, I want to create a system here where I could help more people grow it. We have Fitness Quest 10. I didn't want to franchise Fitness Quest 10, but my mastermind group is a way to, quote, franchise without franchising.
Sure.
I can now help 50, 100 people or businesses without franchising through my mastermind group. And that's what I do today. 12 years later, I don't have a franchise. I don't want a franchise, but I want to help a lot of people. I want them to do that the way they want to do it. And I'm going to focus on business, leadership, marketing, and branding, and in the trenches and personal growth. But I want to empower them to have the brand that they want.
Well, through the mastermind and all of the people that we coach in their respective studios and their employees, I mean, we're certainly impacting a lot of lives. But here's a different question for you. So you take a look at between the mastermind coaching program, you lead a mentorship program. If we're not going to name drop, but you are directly coaching and mentoring people that have created world-class fitness products, people that are speaking at all levels of the fitness industry and outside industries. I mean, you are coaching and mentoring some amazing people. Twice a year we have annual retreats. We have a mentorship once a year. Your exposure to all of these great people, these hundreds of people around the country, around the world, what are some of the lessons that you've drawn or taken from them over the years?
A few things, and it's a good question, Frank, but I would say this is, number one, in all the people I coach now, and it's not just Fit Pros, by the way. It's not just my mastermind. Even now I've got my impact coaching program. These are, high-performing entrepreneurs and moms and dads and folks that want to get to the next level in their own physicality. I learned this. There's no shortage of ideas. Everyone has great ideas. Everyone wants success. Everyone wants to be great. But not everyone gets it done. How do you get it done? How do you execute the details? That's where the coach comes into play. When you need more accountability, like I need accountability. I need a deadline. I need someone on me saying, hey, did you get this done? Did you get your manuscript written? Hey, what's the marketing plan for the book? Like, to me, some of the lessons I learned is everyone's got great ideas, but you need a coach to help get your ideas implemented, take action. I've also learned that everyone has certain levels of fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, one or the other. How are you going to use fear as a tool, as a gift to propel you, not paralyze you? So I want fear to be a literally, rocket fuel to take you to an entirely another level on that. Not to paralyze you. I'm scared. I don't want to do it. No, use it as high octane fuel to propel you to the level that you desire when you're on your own thinking about, hey, I want to do this. It's not fear that's paralyzing you. It's fear of like, you know what? Darn it, I'm getting this bad boy done. And you surround yourself with the people that will help you do that. I've learned that everyone has it. How are you using fear? How are you using your mindset? How are you using your belief system? Getting your mind right, get your mind right, get your mind right. How are you getting your mind right to get it right so that all potentiates, it all happens? And then lastly, I'll touch on this because I'm talking on fear. After fear is faith, like your faith, not just faith, in God, but I'm talking your faith in yourself, your faith in your the faith that, I'm around the right people. I got the right people in the room. I got the right team. I got my faith in line with my divine faith in God for me personally. Like, when all that's in alignment, great things happen. But if there's incongruency, then guess what? Like, you probably are going to hit a little roadblock, and you can't get over the roadblock.
You just touched on it, and I speak about this a lot, but I think one of the things when it comes to faith, the first thing you got to believe in is yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, the best ideas, and no matter who or what you pray to, it isn't going to work. So I'm glad that you touched on that. But I want to bring it back to, because you started to mention, and we touched on live events. We've got a couple of live events coming up, and we often use the expression, nothing beats the power of a live event. And I fully believe that because I've been a part of these for a decade now, and I see the no pun, the impact that they have. In your words, in your opinion, what makes the live events so powerful? And a follow-up question, is there a moment, it's tough to draw upon so many, but was there a moment at any of the live events that really left an impression upon you, one moment that really stands out? So the power of a live event, what is it? And was there a moment at a live event that really stood out to you throughout the years?
Well, when it comes to live events, I'm a believer, regardless of the industry that you're in, that you need to go to at least 3 live events a year. 2 within your industry and 1 outside of your industry.
Absolutely.
Right? So that you step away from an industry event. So 2 in, 1 out. The magic that happens there is when you step away from the daily grind that you're in, you can think clear. We happen to have one of our retreats in the mountains. Mountains bring out the best. They allow you to think big. And whether you're going to the mountains or you're going to a resort, or you're going to a local hotel, when you step away to work on you, then when you get these big ideas, these big ahas, you can create specific strategic action steps that ultimately you need to take action on. Then at the live event, the other powerful thing that happens beside big ideas is you network, you connect. And, Professor Howard Smith, William & Mary, circa 1993, said, your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. So who you surround yourself with is your net worth. So if you want to up-level your net worth, you better up-level your network. So if you don't like what you're getting, you better change something. It's not just going to mysteriously, magically change. Who are you hanging with? Who are you learning from? On every aspect. How are you thinking? So the networking that happens at a live event, the right live event, well, then you get great ideas. And then the power of the network, you know people that can help you. Nowadays with social media and even groups like the Mastermind group, like I know people that can help you craft up and publish a book. I know people that can help launch your speaking career. I know people in Hollywood. Like you get your network. When it comes to specific, you asked the second part of that, the specific, out of 12 years of doing events, we have our 19th 3.5-day mentorship coming up. I'd say some memorable events. One just happened earlier this year, by the way, at our annual retreat. Drew Brees showing up. Which was a complete surprise to everyone but me because no one knew. I didn't tell you guys. I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah, that was under the ropes,
that
brother.
Was like,
I was like, oh, Drew Brees is hanging out.
Like,
he's in the back of the room.
That was actually a really cool moment in time. I think back, I love the Telluride 2017 retreat because we had so many people have breakthroughs that retreat.
That was a great one.
The venue was awesome. Everything was awesome. Obviously, we're going to Vail here end of September, but and then look back having Wayne Cotton here in San Diego, Rancho Santa Fe, 2014. You could hear a pin drop in the room that weekend. What he shared. Man,
that was the most powerful closing I ever witnessed.
Larry, what about you?
Any event, anywhere,
what
anytime.
about you've been around since the beginning. Were there any
well,
moments that stood out
there
to
was
you?
one that stood out for me in 2009, Frank. That was before your first one, where Todd actually challenged me and said, "Hey, I'm expanding my mastermind in a couple of months, and Larry, I think you're ready to step up and coach." That was a big one for me. And then the one recently that we had this year, there was a young man from Texas that was here. In fact, he lost his suitcase. He was in the same clothes for about 2 days. Crystal Pollard, one of our Platinum members, brought him. And he was in the Marines, and he's seen a lot of buddies take their own lives. And Griff came in, and he really contributed in a lot of different ways, I think, and made our retreat better this year. And I think that's kind of the ability you have, to attract people of all walks of life, and then to come in and you're able to connect with him. You sense something about him before any of us did. I mean, I saw this big giant of a man watching us work out, but he didn't have any workout gear because his suitcase was lost. But that was very meaningful because he played a role this year in that retreat we had.
Well, any live event, you get a chance to see someone's energy, whether they're up or they're down, wherever they're at in life, you can feel it. And I'm a big kinesthetic guy. That's why I love live events. Is you get to feel people. If they're fighting pain, they got something going on. That's what's the magic of Fitness Quest 10. Like, we're not the biggest. We always want to be the best, right? We don't want to be the biggest. We want to be the best. And how do you feel the energy? How do you feel someone? Where are they at? What are they struggling with? So that we can pour into them. Because hey, if you want more out of your life, then you gotta pour into people more. Right? It's always like, if you want more, then give more. Don't ask for more. If you want more, give more. And how do you change that? You give energy more. You give more of your time. So to me, the live events, I mean, there's nothing like that.
And I like what you mentioned, Todd, earlier. The importance of maybe getting outside of, it's not just getting outside of your industry, it's getting outside of your comfort zone, it's getting outside of your own self-limiting beliefs. The expression is, you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And you need to know.
Deep thoughts.
Ooh, Frank.
Deep thoughts.
That's
But
a Frankism right there.
Frankism.
That's a hashtag.
Hashtag
Frankism.
Frankism. I like it.
But there's great,
We're having a little fun today.
But it's true. It's true. It's like, if you continue to believe, if you continue to believe what you've always thought, you're going to get what you've always had. And if you're looking to grow in anything, your spirituality, your business, your life, your relationships, you need to be open to some new thoughts and ideas. And I think, yes, there's tremendous value of networking within your industry, and there's also great value in getting away and seeing how other things are done from other industries.
Yep, no doubt. See, we're going to go just a little different direction here because I think it's very relevant in our society
Now, right now, I know people are working out. They're like dying. They're like on the last sprint, the last 400. So as you guys pick it up for your last question
we
or
are
two,
picking it up.
Y'all better just hang in there and keep pushing.
And try to break
suck it up,
60
Buttercup.
seconds.
Try to break 1 minute and 40 seconds. 1:40 if you're on a track right now. So y'all better pick it up. I know this workout's going to be a long one, but pick it up. I want to see a smile on your face. Show your teeth if you're happy. I'm seeing you, and I got like hidden cameras right now on you. So y'all better be smiling and giving some energy. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, speaking of people working out, we're going to talk athletes a little bit.
All right.
Hey, T, you've had the privilege and honor of being able to attract and work with some great pro athletes here at Fitness Quest 10, okay, and at other places. You've interacted with them in and out of the gym. Do you believe, at least in 2019 right now, all the attention via social media and the mainstream media that some of these athletes get? There's hero worship, there's criticism, there's discussion about them. Do you think this hurts the pro athlete in our society today? Has it been a benefit to the society? And do you think there's too much emphasis on the pro athlete's role in society? And in your view, and maybe in talking with some of these guys, has it helped them?
I'll make it short and sweet. I think it's a blessing and a curse. The bottom line is it is what it is, and you have to use that platform as an opportunity to spread your positive message. You're going to impact a lot of people, a lot more than you could even 10 years ago before all these different social media platforms existed. The bottom line is anyone. You don't have to be an athlete. Anyone could be an influencer because everything you post, whether you have 10 followers, 100, 1,000, 100,000, a million, everything you do nowadays can impact you. So to me, it's be real, be authentic, be genuine, and you never want to regret a single post that you post. So make sure you're getting good stuff out there.
Okay. All right. Fair
Can
enough.
I drop the mic?
Boom. No.
We got one or two more questions.
Zach,
You guys are grinding me today.
We got a couple more.
All right.
Okay, now this one involves something a little deeper and something close to your heart, and as far as parenting. And you're a father of 3 children. There's a quote here. If you bungle raising your children, I don't think whatever else you do well matters very much. And that was by Jackie Kennedy Onassis. Many, many years. She married assassinated President John Kennedy. And, she was a big influencer in a lot of society. But what do you think of that quote? If you bungle raising your children, I don't think whatever else you do very much matters.
Well, a wise man once told me that you're only as happy as your saddest child. Larry Indiviglia. There is not a more important role that I play than the dad hat. Period. Like, out of all I work now, I am making sure that the dad hat role is as a priority as ever. As a matter of fact, I'm volunteering 20 to 30 hours a week as a high school football coach, and I love it. Love it. Every minute of it. Now, like, I'm down there coaching Luke and Brady, loving working with all these kids. I realize that these times soon shall pass, and I'm going to miss these times. So sometimes I think, man, how can I, quote, afford to give up 30 hours a week? I don't have it. I'm trying to get all this stuff done. I realize at the same time, it ain't ever about, like, these 30 hours a week that I'm, like, volunteering 7 days a week. It's like, man, I wake up and I am fired up for Friday Night Lights. Like, I'm fired up for the game. I'm fired up for this, the stride and stretches, the weight room sessions, the quarterback sessions, everything we're doing. So I think, she's got a great quote there. And I think the one I just shared, you're only as happy as your saddest child is. I know a lot of great parents that, sometimes kids take the wrong direction, and it's not a reflection of the parent. But I know that we never want to sacrifice the time we have loving our kids. And between McKenna and Brady and Luke, I really treasure the time I get with them right now, and I'm not taking a single day for granted.
We're talking a lot about, in a lot of ways, success, and I just scribbled this down, but success is having control of your time. And maybe you would agree with this, but what you're doing right now with those kids, that's probably the most successful thing you've ever done. You're at the point now where you're really able to enjoy your success because you can do the thing that you just said, the dad hat is the most important thing, and you've got the opportunity because of your success to invest that time in what's most important.
You know what the messed up thing is? As an entrepreneur, it's the hardest thing because it's a mind screw. Because you're like, man, like I know that, but I'm wired to think, man, what opportunities am I giving up? Right, and this is real talk.
Well,
now.
that's
like,
a whole other
that,
conversation. It's
but,
the disconnect between what we know and what our actions are.
Absolutely right. But I mean, in being real, I always said, guys, from the start of this podcast, I'm going to be real. Like, it's like, I know that. That's why I'm doing it. But you still have those like, man, like, should I be taking 30 hours a week? Absolutely should be. But it's like, man, like, you know, what opportunity am I giving up by that? But the bottom line is I understand that, and it's for a very short window. So the most significant thing I can do right now is something I can't really measure. Can't measure the time on the football field or with your kids on a P&L statement.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could if the business doesn't do well or whatever. But like you can't measure that except your kids.
Yeah.
And what they're saying and the impact you're having with them. And to me, that's where my focus is on. But I hear and feel all of you parents out there who juggle your career with trying to be a great parent or a volunteer coach. Like that's what makes America go, and that's what makes us great. And that as a parent, those are things that are really important. And it's no different for me than anybody else. Is like I treasure that time, and that you're absolutely right, Frank. It's like I understand that, but it doesn't make it easy. Okay, I'm doing the right thing, and not feel like, man, like, hey, that's not tough. It's just like that's what it is.
Yeah, down the road, and I'd probably say instead of success, significance. Actually, you will. My kids are older now, T, and I believe this. They will remind you of things that you did with them when they were younger,
right?
And
Absolutely.
that you wouldn't that you didn't remember,
right?
You know. And it will.
Guys, I hope you're enjoying this conversation. You're in the room with Frank and Larry right now, myself, as they're asking me questions on everything with business, leadership, parenting, on that stuff. We're gonna wrap it up. You got one more
last question.
One more question, and then we'll be wrapping up because they're probably stretching by this point.
You know, Todd, we've covered a lot. Listen, we've covered a lot about your journey. We've covered a lot about you being competitive and pursuing better and sharing your lessons and your gifts. And we've talked about success and significance. Real simple question for you. What's next? What's next for Todd Durkin on your journey?
I get asked that question all the time. And sometimes I get asked that question. I'm like, you know what? I just want to focus on now. But I realize that part of, quote, success is focusing on the now, yet knowing where you're going. And I believe that one thing that I have been able to do in my career is to create a strategy, a vision for my annual roadmap, which kind of paints out my picture, reverse engineer everything down to where do I want to go, into really maniacal focus into the day. What's next for me? Depending on like what's next is how far out. Like, you know, I've got at the end of this month as I record this, we got our mastermind retreat in the mountains. That's coming up. I've got a 3.5-day mentorship that's coming up. But the bigger things, and I look down the road, I've got my book coming out next year. I love to write. I believe that this book is going to change lives. I truly believe that this book will change lives. One of the things that's next, and this is just still a kind of a thought that's coming in, is like I want to have in 2020 a major transformation contest around the globe. Now, a transformation contest, not just physically, but I want to challenge people, talk about competition. And this isn't set in stone. I have nothing to share at this point other than my vision of what's next is, how is someone listening in right now going to change their life? Maybe their body, maybe their mind, maybe their spirit. I'm not sure. But to me, what's next is, as I look at creating more impact, it's not just about the physical, although I love the training aspect, but what are people willing to do to change their life? So what's next for me is, whether it be on TV, whether it be on podcast, whether it be via a book, whether it be here at Fitness Quest 10 or any other mastermind satellite, it's how am I going to change more lives? That's what's next. Is how do I pour into one by one, whether someone tells me, hey, I listened to this podcast with Frank and Larry, and man, that changed my life. Fantastic. Share it with somebody, right? If we have this transformation contest that's brewing in my head, and let me know if you get, when you listen to this, like, hey, that sounds awesome. Like, I want to change more lives. And that's part of my mission in life is I want to change 10 million people's lives and create more impact in them every single day. And that's what I'm committed to do. That's what's next.
Love it.
Larry, final thoughts.
Final, if you had one wish for the world, Todd, maybe you just stated it. What would it be?
More impact, peace. I just see so much darkness out there, and the more darkness I see, the more light that we need. So be a light. We need more light. I want to be a light. You want to be a light. We need more light. So let's light it up. Light it up, baby. Frank, any final thoughts?
I just want to, I realize you're a busy man. I want to thank you for your time today, for answering our questions, and always glad to share the time with the three of us. It's always special.
Yeah, Todd, it was great. God, this is the second time I was able to do this. Back it was 10 years ago, 2009.
What's funny, it's like our meetings. We plan for 30 minutes and they go, an hour plus because we get us in the room. And guys, I just wanted to share Larry and Frank with you. They're two of my closest friends and colleagues. A lot of my big thoughts I run by them, and they always have great thoughts. As you could hear from today's episode, it covered a lot of different topics, but I hope that you gleaned some not only content and knowledge out of today, but also some inspiration to take action. Regardless of what you do for a living, go light up the world with positivity, energy, and impact. I love you guys. Keep up the great work. Keep sharing. Keep doing what you do, and whatever you do, go create some impact. Love you guys. We out.